Hello friends, I am Dr. Parveen Sharma. I welcome you all. Today we are going to start a new series on the topic developing positive attitudes. We will try to understand what do we mean by attitudes, how we acquire attitudes and how our attitudes affect others and how the attitude of other person affect our behavior. So we will try to understand. But today in this session we will focus on the topic the concept, component and characteristics of attitude, because understanding of the concept, component and characteristics of attitude will help you to know how we can develop positive attitude and what is the importance of developing positive attitude in life, because it leads to better performance and a successful living. So let us friends try to understand first what do we mean by attitude. As learning is constant, you grow personally and professionally and you learn as well. You acquire knowledge, you acquire skill and you acquire attitude. Have you ever thought of from where we acquire knowledge, from where we acquire skill and from where we acquire attitude? For acquiring knowledge, we go to school, we go to institutions, we interact with the people, we explore knowledge on internet, and after interacting with teachers and peer group and other stakeholders in the society, we acquire learning, we acquire knowledge. And regarding the acquiring of skills, after imitating the other persons, after a lot of practice, you can acquire skills. But what about attitudes? From where do we acquire attitudes? Attitudes are complex and develop slowly and gradually. It is experience that people who perceive the things in a positive manner, they develop the positivity, they develop the positive attitude and they are able to live a successful life. According to John Mitchell, our attitude towards life determines life's attitude toward us. So it makes clear that our attitude towards life should be positive. Of course, in the coming sessions, I will discuss with you what are the ways to develop positive attitude. But before that, a thorough understanding of the concept and component of attitude is essential. Attitude is your outlook on life, how you respond to people and events. It is your mind which directs your behavior, which guides your attitude. It is the persistent tendency to feel and believe in something favorably or unfavorably towards some object, person or idea. Some people have a tendency to keep thinking and worrying what will happen next moment, whether I will be able to secure good marks, whether I will be able to select it against this job and so on. Thus thinking about the future happening, one keeps on adding the worries towards his or her own life, and it may bring negativity, thus making negative attitude. My dear friends, if you focus your energy on accepting, appreciating and enjoying the things, the people, the events which come in your life as it is, then certainly I'm sure enough your attitude will be positive and you will attract the positivity. Here I would like to remind you the divine message of Lord Krishna given in Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Do your karma and do not worry about reward. कर्म किए जा और फल की इच्छा मत कर, and accept the things perceive the things with sakshi bhav. देखते जाइए, enjoy the things, enjoy the events as they come in your life. Hence, to use your mental energy on positive side is really good, is really commendable. As attitude drives your behavior, which further is influenced by circumstances. Through your action or body language, you convey a message which is interpreted by others. So it matters what you say and how you react. Suppose you are at a meeting and one speaker is addressing the whole audience, but you do not agree to the opinion of the speaker. You make some gestures or you make faces, and the few of the person at a meeting are looking at your face. Then your body language and your actions, your gestures convey to them that you are not agreeing to the opinion. So what you say and what you act really matters, because your body language or your words, they convey what you want to say. See in this pic, 2 sentences are written, negative attitude and positive attitude. It depends on your personality, it depends on your choice, on your decision. You attract negativity or positivity. It depends on your choice. See, mind it that you can determine your attitude, because you can make efforts to control your thinking. As we have understood by now that it is your mind which directs your behavior, which gives you guidance. And we are well aware that human being has been endowed with the divine power by the God that one can think, because this thinking power is the only trait which differentiates us from the animals. So why not to think? Why not to control your feelings? Why not to change your attitude in a positive one? Because attitudes are not permanent, they can change over times. That is what we are going to discuss, how to develop positive attitudes. Later on, I will suggest some of the techniques to you how to change the negativity into positivity. You must acknowledge that your attitudes affects others also. Attitude is different from opinion and belief, though they are closely or interchangeably used. An opinion is one's judgment of facts or circumstances, although attitudes tend to be generalized predisposition to react in some way towards object or concept. Opinion tends to be focused on more specific aspects of the object or concept. But what about your beliefs? Belief reflects how you perceive the objects. So your perception is important, how you perceive the things. That is what Lord Krishna talked about, Sakshi Bhava perception. So it is one's cognitive aspect and is stronger than opinion. Mr. Churchill has said, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference, which is shown in this picture. So the statement given by Winston Churchill is really very important to understand our discussion on this topic. Attitude, because they can change over times. We need a practice to change our negative attitude into positive one, because they are going to make a big difference in our life. See, we will see how the different educationists have defined the attitudes. We will discuss few of the definition. According to Craig and Crutchfield, an attitude can be defined as an enduring organization of motivational, emotional, perceptual and cognitive processes with respect to the individual's world. So later on, if I talk about Thurston, the great educationist. According to Thurston, attitude denotes the sum total of men's inclination and feelings. Prejudice are bias, preconceived notions, ideas, fears or threats about any specific topic. So, after going through these two definitions given by the great educationist, we can infer that attitude is a mental state of readiness organized through experiences. When just few seconds before I was speaking to you that over time, by experience or by knowledge or by training, attitude can be changed. So through experience we can organize it, and it is like a mental state of readiness to bring a change in our attitude, which exerts a directive or dynamic influence on the responses. But there can come a change in the attitude. We can change our negative attitude into positive one. See, here is a pic where it is written, I can't do it. What you have to do? Simply you have to delete the alphabet T, which will turn into I can do it. So never say I can't do it, because you have to work hard. Ultimately, your hard work brings you success. Attitude can be explicit and implicit. Let us try to understand what is explicit attitude and what is implicit attitude. Sometimes the factors, later on I'll discuss with you the factors which change our attitude. So sometimes some factors, when they change our attitude, we are conscious about those factors, and sometimes we are not conscious about those factors, how our attitude is being changed, because it might happen that you come across a very influential personality, and by moving in that person's company, your negativity goes off and your attitude becomes positive, and you were not conscious. So there are two types of attitude, implicit and explicit. When we are consciously aware of attitude that clearly influences our behavior and belief, are known as explicit attitudes. And sometime on the other hand, we are not conscious how our attitude got changed. So when we are not conscious but still our belief and attitude is getting affected, this is implicit attitude. Now I hope it is clear to the listeners and viewers what do we mean by attitude, because attitudes are really important. Because in the beginning I spoke to you, we know from where we acquire knowledge, we know how do we acquire skill, but we have to learn how do we acquire attitudes, how and from where the negativity comes in our life. Because if we want to live a successful life, we have to be positive. We have to learn positive attitudes. Now, after knowing the meaning of attitudes and how it is important in our life, we will try to understand what do we mean by the components of attitude. What are those components? See, expression of our liking or disliking towards an object, towards a person or towards an happening is known as attitude. It is clear. On the basis of received information, we evaluate, prefer or reject things. Suppose we are to give our opinion about a person. So how do we form our opinion? We try to collect the information about the person, then we try to evaluate through those informations, and out of those information, after the evaluation, we judge the person. We may prefer, we may like the person, or we may reject. So this is our attitude. It is the thought or action accompanied by feeling. So when we evaluate this way, this evaluation can be positive or can be negative because we may like the person, we may prefer his or her company, and we may reject. So this is positive or negative evaluation. There are the ways of thinking which shape an individual's perception of the world. To you that this is the thinking power which differentiate the human being from the animals, because we can think for our betterment, we can think for the betterment of the humanity, for the society, for everyone. So this thinking, how we perceive the things, what we think, this shape the individual's personality, and this forms the attitude of the individual. There are various components that make up the attitude. See, there are three components of attitude: cognitive, affective, and behavioral. See, in this pic you can see the attitude. It indicates to three parts. When we talk about cognitive component, it is related to belief or knowledge, because I spoke to you just now that it is a thought attached with feeling, associated with feeling. And the affective component is feeling. How do we feel? Because sometimes we feel angry, sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel jealous, sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we feel happy. So all feelings are mixed in an individual. And the behavioral component is the predisposition to act. How do we act? What we say, how we act, what gestures we make. So these are three components. And if I talk about further the cognitive part, which is related to our knowledge, it refers to our beliefs, thoughts, and attributes that we would associate with an object. It is the opinion or belief related to the knowledge of a person. Such examples can be seen from stereotypes like smoking is injurious to health, honesty is the best policy, I like punctuality. Then what about the affective component? This component is emotional or feeling segment of an individual. It comes with the feeling like anger, hate, fear, jealous, threat. For example, I hate selfishness. So this is affective component. And the third one, the behavioral, is it indicates to person's behavior in a particular way. The working style or thinking style or learning style of all individual is different. So this reflects person's intention to behave in short run or long run, because some attitudes stay for a short while and some are very strong because they are rooted deep in our feeling, in our thinking. So attitudes are important for character formation as well as for mental health. On one side we see the attitude we form, we acquire, are contributing a lot in the character formation of us and as well as mental health, because if we are thinking in a positive manner, our mental health will be sound, otherwise not. The three components: affective pertains to feelings, cognitive with the knowledge, and behavioral with our actions. So these are all about components of attitudes. See, the affect part in this picture, you can see we can measure by physiological indicators, verbal statement about feelings. And if we are to measure behavioral intention, we can observe the behavior, verbal statement about intentions. And cognition, we can measure by attitude scales about beliefs. So these three components help in understanding the potential relationship between attitude and behavior. See, what we think, what we feel, it will decide our attitude, and attitude further will turn into our behavior. So it is a relationship between attitude and behavior. They both interrelated to form our attitude and affect how we perceive the world. Suppose someone is advising you for your career, for your life. So it depends on your personality, on your perception. You feel that the person who is giving me advice is really concerned for my welfare, or we get angry. What bothers him? Why he or she is advising me? So it all depends on our perception. Now, after the components and its understanding, I would like to discuss with you what are the characteristics of attitude. First, attitudes are learnt with our experiences. As we move on, as we grow personally and professionally, we get different experiences as we interact with the outer world, and our attitudes are changed. We learn from there, we acquire from that experience. It guides the behavior of an individual in a specific direction, and attitudes sometimes may be in extreme. They are interconnected with various factors. Later on, I'll discuss with you what are those factors which affect our attitudes. And attitudes cause us to behave in a particular way towards an object or person. It includes certain aspect of personality as interest, appreciation, and social conduct. Attitude may be positive or negative, and it may be affected by age, by position, by education. Later on, I'll discuss in detail these factors and some more factors. It refers to one's readiness for doing work, how we are ready. Actually, it is frequently used in describing people and explaining their behavior. Now, dimensions of attitude: strength, accessibility, and ambivalence. What is strength? We hold some attitudes very firmly. They are known as strong attitude. They highly influence our behavior as they provide strength. Sometimes we have vested interest in some attitudes, so we do not want to change those attitudes, and as the time passes on, those attitudes of ours becomes more strong. It may be that when people have enough information and knowledge about people, things or events, then attitudes become strong. And what about accessibility? Some attitudes come in our mind very easily. Due to accessibility of attitude, it becomes strong. And ambivalence, it indicates to the ratio of positive and negative evaluation that make up the attitudes. Ambivalence of attitude increases as the negative and positive evaluation get more and more equal. So, I hope it is clear to you that what are the characteristics and dimensions of attitude. We have discussed what do we mean by attitudes, how they are important for an individual to live a successful life, how do we acquire attitudes, from where one acquire negative attitude, and it is important to turn negative attitude into positive one, and what are the components of attitude, what are the characteristics of attitude, and what are the dimensions of attitude. Later on, as we have started this series on developing positive attitude, we will discuss few of the barriers or factors or theories of attitude, so that understanding of all those aspects of attitude will help us to know in detail that what are the ways we can adopt in developing positive attitude to live a healthy and happy and successful life. Thank you.